Welcome to the Cambridge Tech Podcast, talking all things technology from the heart of the UK's tech capital. Here are your hosts, Faye Holland and James Parton.
Hi, I'm Faye.
And I'm James. So Faye, how was your week?
It was a busy week again, as always, last week. Lots and lots of meetings, both at Cambridge and over in Manchester. Started the week with a really good catch-up with Nikki Shepherd of Abbey People, which I think is always really good for context to remember. Innovation has to spread across the communities that we work in. So that was very good. Our friends over at Cambridge Independent asked us if I would comment on the Cambridge Ahead Cameo report, which I know you spoke to Dan about, and that'll be next week's episode. That was quite good from a partnership perspective to be able to talk about the potential expansion of international routes at Stansted based on the economic success that it had over in Manchester. So yeah, I felt, my new role is starting to take effect and I'm being asked to comment on things in the media. So that was really good. Who else? Jamie Bignell, HSBC I spoke to, right through to the likes of Duncan Johnston up in Northern Gridstone. And yeah, just a normal Faye week of lots and lots of meetings. We're also prepping for the Partnership Innovation Summit and Investor Summit, which will take place in October. So yeah, pretty jam-packed. What about you?
Yeah, nice. Yeah, quite a bit of podcast planning, but I did manage to get out and about this week as well. Tuesday, I visited Google to sync up on their plans for Cambridge. And we actually have Alex from Google coming on the podcast soon to share more on that. So looking forward to that. I popped into the London AI Hub to catch up with Rupert. And for those of you that are curious, you can check back to episode 165 to learn all about the London AI Hub. I attended the Scale Up Institute session at Newnham College. The highlight was a fireside chat between Irene Graham, who's the CEO of the Scale Up Institute, and Dame Julia Hoggett, who's the CEO of the London Stock Exchange. And they had a really interesting chat and they explored the current market dynamics, government development, and Julia described how LSE is changing to ensure that London is a competitive choice for scale-up founders looking to list. So I definitely recommend listeners visit scaleupinstitute.org.uk to download a copy of their annual Scale-Up report.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. And actually, it was on at the same day as the Oxcam Scientific Supercluster Conference. So anyone who wasn't at the Scale Up Institute was definitely over at a very packed out event in London last week. It's worthwhile just having a quick chat about that event as well, because there's some real highlights there. Lord Valence was on the stage. He was talking about how the Oxcam Supercluster has really moved now. It's moving from a startup to a scale-up. It's getting an awful lot of traction. They had a lot of people on the stage. They also announced a further investment for the Development Corporation for Greater Cambridge, which has been talked about for a little while, but that's all now been approved. And that's going to be really interesting because it's not about just putting houses up. It's about ensuring it's infrastructure first. That I thought was really positive. And running alongside that, I think a lot of listeners will know Marshall's Aerospace is moving. That's been in plan for a long time. And they've finally now announced that space will be used for 10,000 more houses. So it gives them a real opportunity to use this infrastructure first approach in such a big site. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting that they coincided all of these big announcements for the date of the Supercluster conference as well.
Yeah, and that point about investment in infrastructure came through really strongly in the conversation you referenced that I had with Dan Thorpe of Cambridge Ahead. So definitely tune into next week's episode to hear more about that.
Perfect. So yeah, just wrapping up on the Oxcam Supercluster, I have to do a shout out to Matt Allen. That chap, they and the team, they must have had some serious beer at the end of that conference. It really was a job well done. And of course, we're all busy this week out at London Tech Week. So I'm sure we'll have lots of updates on that next week as well.
Our first news story comes from London Tech Week. Europe's technology market is entering a decisive era of growth, with IT spending across the region forecast to reach $1.3 trillion in 2026, increasing 8.2%, which is its fastest pace since 2021. And that's according to new data from Omdia, which was shared ahead of London Tech Week. Rapid growth is being driven by accelerating investment in AI infrastructure, cloud, software and services, as organisations across Europe move from AI experimentation to real-world deployment.
Yeah, moving on from that, according to the forthcoming Tech Nation report, the next wave of UK AI, the UK is firmly at the centre of Europe's AI growth, growing 3 times faster than France and 2 times faster than Germany, with record investment and a growing AI workforce. Caroline Dawson, OBE, CEO of Founders Forum Group and lead for London Tech Week, said, "The next phase of AI growth will not be shaped by policy alone or by any single company, sector or country. It will depend on the strength of the whole ecosystem. Founders building new companies, investors backing them, corporates adopting new technologies, governments creating the right conditions, and infrastructure providers enabling AI to scale." And I think all of those topics, as we just mentioned, will be talked about during London Tech Week this week.
Congratulations to Finn Stevenson, the CEO and co-founder of Flock, and the team there. They have announced a $12.5 million Series A, which was led by Albion VC, Echo Ventures, Form Ventures, and Mercia Ventures. I think both of us were really impressed with Flock when they came on the show back in November, and you can go back to listen to episode 167 to learn all about how they are revolutionising physiotherapy with AI.
Brilliant. Well done, everyone. And the final piece of news this week is actually a shout out to the Cambridge Wireless Technology and Engineering Conference that's coming up on the 8th of July in London. And this year's conference will explore the future of semiconductor photonic technologies in an era shaped by AI, electrification and advanced connectivity. So head over to cambridgewireless.co.uk for more information and to get your ticket. So let's move on to this week's episode. And I caught up with Charlotte Ridley, who is the founder and CEO of Memorify. Charlotte, it's brilliant to have you with us today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So why don't you start by just introducing yourself and then we'll come on and talk about Memorify.
I'm Charlotte Ridley. I'm the founder and CEO of Memorify.
What is Memorify?
Gosh, where to start? In a nutshell, we have created the home for your digital memories. We are about connecting you with the joy of your memories, about resurfacing past memories, and about making sure that they are securely stored for the future. We guarantee the secure storage of all of your memories 100 years after death. At our absolute core, we just want you to experience the joy from your memories because it's something we're becoming incredibly disconnected from these days in such a digital world of endless volumes of clutter and content.
Excellent. So there's quite a lot to unpick there. So just tell us a little bit about the journey so far. So when did you start Memorify? How's the business been built?
I actually came up with the idea for Memorify when my father passed away. So he passed away very unexpectedly back in 2021. And at the time I was 4 months pregnant with my daughter. And he was here one day, he was gone the next, and we battled the likes of Apple and Google and other big tech giants to try and get access to his digital memories, and we couldn't. And I just realised that I had lost all of his digital memories. What was even worse was that actually he'd also digitised all of my childhood memories, all of my VHS tapes, all of my old pictures. He'd scanned them all in. We couldn't get access to any of them. And I had to accept that not only had I lost him, I'd lost all of my sort of childhood memories. And then when I actually had my daughter, I was very conscious that I was capturing her entire life. Her entire life was digital. It was in my phone. And if anything ever happened to me, I just didn't want history to repeat itself. I was time poor. I was a busy mum. I didn't have the time to be going through my camera or curating, organising, transferring, uploading. So I originally just went out to build something for myself. I have a background in the tech sector, and I just went around and started asking people that I knew, developers, saying, I want to build this solution. I want to build this kind of safe space for my daughter's memories, and I want it to do this, that, and the other. Could you help me? And everyone was like, unfortunately, I can't. However, if you create that, I want it. I want to buy that. And I was like, wow, okay, actually, there's something quite interesting here. So that was the very start of it. I then spent quite a lot of time just asking around people, just seeing if someone could help me, looking at competitors, seeing if there was competitors, what else was out there. But then through this process of asking around, I was then actually introduced to what is now my chairman, Gavin, and what was meant to be a 30-minute introductory call ended up being about a 3-hour conversation with him. And in some senses, the rest is history in that regard. But at that point, that was still 2 years ago. So I had another job. I was working both businesses parallel for a very long time. I was sat up till 3 a.m., writing Innovate UK grants. I was trying to, do quite a high pressure job at the time as well, plus raising a young child. For about 12-month period, I kind of had the idea, I was exploring it, I was doing the research, I was doing that parallel to my actual job. And then I got made redundant last spring. And that was the moment where I was like, it's now or never. We'd got a lot of early traction. I knew then that I had sort of 6 months runway if I stretched my redundancy money to actually make the business a reality and raise my investment round. And I was able to by the skin of my teeth. And, that's kind of what brings me to here today.
We're going to come on to the funding side of things. And I do want to unravel a little bit more about team, but tell us what the it is. What have you actually now created?
In a nutshell, it is the home for your digital memories. It's that safe place that you keep all of those memories and you just can know and be guaranteed that they will be there for the long term. And we've created some very clever technologies. It is an app. It's a technology platform. You set the types of memories that you care about. We also, with our personalization model, we learn as well more about the memories that you like and that are important to you. And then with your permission, we monitor your camera roll. Whenever we find a memory that we think you'll care about, we then take that and we then pull it into the platform. We put it in like a holding pen and we say, Faye, you just come back from a trip to Italy. You took 200 pictures. Here's what we found is a top 40 based on eyes open, interesting background, interesting location, things like that. Is this a memory we think you'll care about? And if you say, yes, that's correct, then what we do is we then go, great, let's write a summary of that trip on your behalf, because actually it's the summary and it's the story that goes alongside those pictures that's really valuable in the long term. And then the technology, what it does is it's able to understand where you've been and what you've done. It writes into this really beautiful kind of summary of that trip with quite a lot of detail. And then what we do is we take you through a really lovely user experience to actually get any sort of emotional or sentimental aspects of that trip. Because quite often memories only become memories because of the sentimental aspect of what's happened. Now, we can do as much of the heavy lifting as possible, but we also really encourage and support you to give that extra little bit of detail. Then what we do is we respin that into that memory. And then what pops out is your highlights of your trip, plus the story that goes alongside it. And then it's securely stored within the platform. You can find it. We remind you of them. It's a really beautiful interface that just helps unearth and uncover all of those wonderful memories. And then alongside that, we guarantee the secure storage of all of those memories for up to 100 years after death.
And just going back to your original point of you didn't have access, how then, so you have access because you have the app and it's stored on the platform. It's reliant on you to then share that with other people.
Within the platform, you are able to set either the people that you would like to go to if anything ever happened to you. You can also set unborn future dependencies. So you could say, my brother doesn't have a child right now, but if he does in the future, I'm happy for permission to be granted to that person down the line if anything's happened to me. And then what happens is if you pass away, we continue to pay for the storage of all of that content. We have a very clever model around how we're able to do that. But what it then means is that the people that you've given permission to or the descendants that you have given permission to can come to us and they can request access and they will be able to gain access. And we're working very, very closely with one of the best law firms in Cambridge to build and architect all of that out so that we really know that we can hang our hat on that capability. And I'm so excited by just being able to offer this aspect alone, just simply because it's something that a lot of people don't realize that a lot of the big tech companies, after you've passed away, they have the permissions to erase all your digital content within 2 to 3 years. Our digital memories are currently not really being looked after for the future generation. And I do worry a lot about the next generation actually not having any old historic memories from the generation previously, because we take everything digitally and we've not really thought about that part. So that's a huge part of what we're doing. It's that future proofing. It's that guaranteeing of that long-term secure storage complement to everything else that we're doing.
Is that uniqueness of preserving and keeping those memories intact, isn't it? I'm kind of thinking now a couple of things. So can you retrofit it? So say you've got an old library of photos or videos or things like that, like you were saying, VHS all got put on a digital platform. Could that all be implemented on your system? And obviously I understand this is really early days, so it might be a future plan.
So it's absolutely part of our roadmap. So we have built with a user-centered design approach. So we spend so much time speaking to people, speaking to potential customers, doing kind of market research. And something that's come up a lot is actually the people that have got so much of their life already on their phones or digital platforms that want to kind of consolidate and organize all of that historic content. So that's absolutely something that is a really big focus of ours. So when I said previously that our model learns about the types of memories you care about, once we feel that we've learned enough, or we feel that we're quite accurate on the types of memories that you care about, we will then be able to offer a capability for the user to then be able to do what we're kind of calling a bulk upload, where we can actually run the technology through your entire past camera roll. And then what we'll do is we'll pull through anything that we believe is a memory. We'll write as much of the summary of that memory as we can based on the information we can obtain from the data and reading of the images and things like that. And all of that will come into the platform in like a separate holding pen, because we don't want to just merge all of that with everything that you've then already been curating. And you can kind of go in every now and again and you can accept and decline and go, that is a memory, that isn't. And that is actually a really big part of it, because we don't just want to protect those future memories that people are making from the moment that the platform is launched, but we want to make sure that we can help people with that historic content. And the same applies for like Google Drives and Flickr accounts and all of those. So we will have a desktop version of the platform as well that will enable that historic, we're calling it bulk upload, but import and organization as well. And again, the same goes with printed photos. So one of the capabilities that we will have is similar to how you scan a bank check. You can take a picture of it, it digitizes it, and then we will bring it into the platform and we can try and work out as much as we can about the context of the picture, the dates, and all of those sorts of things with the technology that we've built. One of our kind of membership tiers is around that kind of legacy organizer, because you usually do find that there's that one person in the family that kind of takes that responsibility of having all of the old family pictures and wants to kind of go and organize all of those and digitize them and put them in somewhere safe. So yeah, we are the memory company. We don't want to do anything right now other than care about looking after, protecting and reconnecting and making people enjoy their memories. So when we think about memories, we do think about actually how do we protect those past memories as well.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. I'm sitting here thinking, I mean, I love the idea of it, but I'm also notoriously bad. I'm one of these people, I do everything and then I forget about it for ages. Is there a plan to do like prompts to say you haven't actually done anything for the last 2 years that's not work related, Faye, on your phone? So do you want to get a life? I mean, have you got anything maybe slightly more subtle than that, but are you thinking about the types of things you can use to prompt people to keep creating memories?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. And it feeds into part of something that we've already got going on in our future roadmap, of which I can't give too much away at this point. I think with technology, you have to be careful that you don't become too intrusive. And we are actually starting to really understand that people are valuing in real life experiences. We've kind of gone, not a bit of a 360, but there was a period where everything was digital, the metaverse, we were living in virtual reality, but actually people are now craving human connection. They're craving going back to concerts and doing things in real life. And actually we were looking at how we can insert ourselves in some of those in real life experiences that are going on, and the moments that people are actually capturing memories, and how we can complement that. And then how actually we just sort of appear at the events and the things you're going to. Could be going to a concert at Wembley, or you could be at Disneyland, or you could be on holiday. How do we support you in capturing those memories in those moments where you are at those places where you are experiencing memories? But also another bit is you might be doing things that are memories, but you might just not be taking the pictures. It might be that, you have a family member that is the family photographer that does it, which is why we've got a built-in sharing capability. So security and trust and privacy is absolutely core to what we're doing. So we've thought so long and hard about the sharing capabilities within the platform. It's not about sharing with large volumes of people. It's about the same level of care that if you were passing the family album to someone, or if you just had some pictures printed, giving them for someone to look at or sharing them around. So there is the ability that actually you may have been somewhere, a wedding or something like that, where there's some lovely pictures with you, and just because you've not taken pictures, they may have, but they will have the ability to securely share them with you within the platform, so they can also live in your world as well. So there's quite a few interesting things that we've got going on, and some really interesting partnerships of how we can really insert ourselves into those moments where people are making memories.
Technology moves fast, and now so can you. Discover Polestar, the all-electric performance brand vehicles redefining how we drive. Precision engineering, minimalist design, and software that evolves with you. Experience it at Holden Group in Norwich and Bury St Edmunds, or let us bring the test drive to your door. Proud sponsors of the Cambridge Tech Podcast. Polestar, electric performance redefined. Discover at holdengroup.co.uk/Polestar.
You're looking at AI innovation for something that is deeply personal. We're constantly scrolling. I mean, do you think we're at that point in time where people do want something different? They want more intentional things. And do you think what you're creating allows them to be more intentional?
Memories, they can bring so much joy to people. They have so many actual health benefits, from the dopamine, the endorphins, the connecting to people, all the things that actually make us feel great. And we try and put a really clear line in the sand that we do not want to ever be identified as a social media platform or an equivalent to that. We kind of stay as far away as we can from that, because I also think that social media has a very different purpose today. Social media, it used to be Facebook, in the sense that it used to be a place where you would upload your memories and you would share a small group of people what's going on with your life. But I think it's changed. People are now, collecting likes and comments and wanting to be content creators, and are using it as a very clever marketing tool. And there's so much greatness to social media. But I think that we've lost the authenticity of what it was originally being used for, which was real people sharing, their real lives. And that was unfiltered, unedited. But it's not like that now. The narrative that people are putting online is actually not the reality. And especially when I look at the younger generation coming through and my children, and I actually think that authenticity is so important. And I actually think that there is a real need and a real want in society for reminders of that authentic connection, those authentic moments, those memories where actually, you looked perfectly imperfect. And it was never a picture you put on social media because that wasn't what you want to portray. But actually that memory means something. And at the moment, the only option you've got is to either have it lost in your camera roll somewhere, or to be popped on social media. And then even if you've got a private account, there's still this kind of security aspects, the way that the tech companies are using your data and things like that. There's also a real shift in nostalgia. People are really starting to value that looking back, that slowing down, that more intentional. What do they do with their time? What content do they consume? Where do they focus their time? And actually, when you start to think about the way that we are curating your memories, it's also the different chapters of your life. And there's something very beautiful about having that ability to look back very intentionally and see those different chapters, those storms you've weathered, those different milestones you've gone through in your life. And I think sometimes we're running so fast at life that actually that ability to slow down and reflect and actually go, do you know what? Life's pretty good. Or God, I only remember that chapter of my life for the negatives, but actually there were some really great points in there. But at the moment we don't really do that because there's not really a platform that's facilitating all of that and not presenting it in a way that is enjoyable, is immersive, is that kind of home for those memories. So I think people are starting to value slightly different things.
Yeah, it's remembering the important stuff, isn't it? Technology's great, and this is a great example of creating something that uses technology, but also links it very well to well-being and other things as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. And especially when you start to think about children as well, there is so much scientific evidence around children today growing up with a struggling sense of self and identity and belonging. And a lot of that can be actually attributed to the fact that they actually aren't growing up with the old family photo album like we had. We used to be able to go to a shelf and have independent access to basically the best bits of our childhood that was documented. Our parents had to be so intentional about how they used that camera roll and, those 30 shots or whatever it was. They picked the best, they put them in the albums and they sat there on the shelf and we could go out and we could look at them. And it was me winning at sports day. It was me doing the violin. It was all my best bits. Children today don't have that. They're locked on parents' phones. And even if parents do kind of say, have a little look, it's all quite disjointed. It's jumping around. It's not curated. And a child needs to consistently see evidence that they are brave, that they are smart, that they are good at something. And actually, by having it, and they need to see it in sort of a timeline format, they need to see that consistent evidence in a very curated way for their little brains to really join the dots up and go, actually, do you know what? I am pretty good. I am pretty brave. I am pretty smart. And I also think that's where we have a huge potential in actually being able to really resurface and surface all of those best bits of a child's childhood and provide that evidence to them. And that's why we're building a child profile that runs alongside the main app. And I'm so passionate about that because I think it's really, really important that we support children, especially in today's world with mental health, with social media, with, children are really battling with the narrative of what does good look like, or am I enough? And I actually think if we can just evidence to them that they are enough and look at all the great, wonderful things you're doing, such an important thing to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, your passion, Charlotte, comes across very, very strongly, which is great to see. And I'm kind of thinking now, do you think that what you're doing now has also shaped you as a founder and as a leader? Because what you're doing, you believe in so much as being purposeful and useful.
I think there's a few things that have probably shaped me as a leader. I think the first is obviously losing my dad. I think when you're sat front row of a funeral, it's probably one of the moments where you feel most alive. And it's a real reminder that actually you're on this planet for such a short period of time. And I think that takes away a lot of that fear of failure, fear of should I give something a go, because it's that reminder that actually you're not here forever, and time goes so fast. So actually, do you know what? Just do it. But I think that's been a big thing for me. But I also think actually having my daughter was a huge kind of turning point or unlock to me, because actually when I had my daughter, I realized the value of a network. I realized the value of just asking for help. I realized that I could trust my gut, that there's no playbook, that you have to prioritize harder, that you have to deal with emotions, you have to deal with irrational toddlers that are tired. And I think actually that was probably one of the best kind of training academies that I could have gone on to actually become a leader, because that is actually just what you have to do when you're running a company. It is like raising a child in many senses. I do deeply believe in what we're doing. I deeply believe in the team that we've got. I have so much respect for my team. They're the most wonderful people, but they're just phenomenal at what they do. And I think we've got a great opportunity to do something really important and really purposeful. And I think because as well, I felt like when I lost my dad's digital memories that I kind of saw into the future. And in some ways, maybe that's an unfair advantage, because that's actually what's caused me to actually want to try and solve the problem. I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. I don't want anyone to lose all of their loved ones' memories. Like, it's heartbreaking. And if I can stop that, and if I can build a solution for that, then I'm absolutely going to. And especially as well, when I I have my daughter, I have a wonderful stepson, and I look at the world they're in and I look at the importance that memories can play in that. We also hire phenomenal neuroscientists and psychologists within our actual team. The more that I have learned about how much value your memories can bring to your life, to your well-being, to your child's development, your child well-being, I'm like, how the hell can I not go the absolute kitchen sink at trying to make this business as successful as it possibly can do? My dad was a very specialized engineer. I grew up with technology. I started my career at Intel working in emerging technology. I was always future looking. I kind of cut my teeth in one of the biggest tech companies in the world, and they always taught me to look 8 years ahead. And yeah, I think we've got a phenomenal opportunity. I think we can take the business in so many different ways, but fundamentally, I think anybody in this world that has a smartphone can resonate with what we're doing. Everybody makes memories. Whatever culture you are, you make memories in some way, shape or form. And I think that that is a huge opportunity for us.
Yeah, it's very powerful, Charlotte. You've got the grounding in the tech and how to think, and then you have that lived experience, which is allowing you to embrace it, which is really powerful. So just tell us a little bit, going back to the start of the conversation when you started saying about funding and the team. Where are you on your journey? Are you starting to get, you were talking about grant applications. How are you actually progressing the business?
So we had 3 failed Innovate UK grants and we won the 4th. And I say that because actually some people probably wouldn't own up to the failed bit of the story, but it's the reality. It took 3 failed attempts to get the 4th one, and that was a huge unlock for us. We won it for ethical and impactful novel AI and machine learning for high growth commercial potential companies. So we won it for something that was really great, just to have that recognition for the novelness of the actual technology that we are building. So we won that grant. We oversubscribed on our pre-seed round, and we have been selected to be part of Innovate UK's new kind of high growth business support. So that's great for us. We're backed by quite a few really interesting partners and supported by likes of the London Stock Exchange, which is great. And we will be launching our next fundraising round, our seed round, at the back end of the summer, so early September.
Exciting times. So my last question to you is going to be, what advice would you give to other founders who want to build a company, especially one where you're balancing that very personal impact with having commercial success?
So one thing that I always say to founders when they're thinking about raising investment or going on this journey is taking bad investment is actually harder to get out of than a divorce. It sits with me a lot. And I think that's actually probably why it took me longer to raise my first investment round, because I was so adamant that I was not going to take bad money. And I believed in what we were doing. I believed in the team. And I also knew that we had a great opportunity in front of us. And I just didn't want a bad egg coming in and spoiling that or disrupting it for us. So I think I would say that this is your baby. You're going to put your heart and soul into it. You are going to make so many sacrifices along the way. And you are, I hope, going to enjoy the rewards and enjoy the journey along the way. But it's so easy, especially as a female founder, to just be made to feel grateful to take whatever investment comes your way. And I would just give the advice to anyone to really think twice about that. Really make sure that the people that you're putting on your cap table share the same ethics as you, share the same vision, because they can either be the greatest unlock or they can be potentially the failure of your company. And I'm so incredibly grateful for the investors that I have on my cap table. I have the most phenomenal people. Not only do they support me, they share the same ethics, they share the direction of the business, but they've all got fantastic little black books and they all open them for me. They help me. They do things for free. There's things I could never afford to be doing at this stage, but they're just like, no, let me help you because I want to. And that's so incredibly important. Another thing that I think about quite often is you've still got to be a commercial business. You've still got to make money in order to be able to support all of the other things around it. When I talk about supporting children in foster care, That's not going to be a huge revenue stream and make lots and lots of money for the business. But it's something that is important and something that I see that we are kind of a guardian of what we are doing. And it's our responsibility to actually support the people that can really benefit from this the most. I know that I need to make this a commercially successful business so that I can then reinvest that money in those areas where I can see the potential for our technology to help people, add meaning, to add value, to improve people's lives. I understand that, if my team, if we can make profits, if we can create great technology, we can reinvest it. And if we don't think about it like that, I'll never be able to help those people in the long term because there's going to be no money in the pot to be able to do it. So there is also that you have to think commercially. You have to build a sustainable business in order to then be able to reinvest that in all of the other areas that you want to help and you want to support.
That's great. It's interesting. I'm sure to many people, there's a lot of inspiration in there as well, because it's remembering we are human beings. We are people. A lot of the things that we actually do is based on relationships that we've got. Yes, of course, you've got to have the commercial model, but the one thing that AI is not going to replace is gut instinct. So going right back to your funding comment, actually, if at any point in time running your business, it doesn't feel quite right, it isn't right. And having the strength to be able to focus on that, I think, is a really important message.
Someone said to me the other day, they were like, I hate calling it gut instinct because it just feels like I'm making a really nonchalant decision based on this kind of thing called a gut. But actually, your gut is years of experience, expertise, trial and error. It's all of that that gives you that instinct. And that's something that you build up over time.
So just to wrap up then, you said you're looking at the next funding round towards the end of summer. So that's something for people to watch out for. Anything else that you would like to share with the community that are listening to the episode?
So we are launching July 21st on the App Store. So please download us then. We also have kind of a waiting list and pre-orders. So if you're listening to this before the 21st of July, please go and join our waiting list. And also, please just get in touch. We love feedback. If you have a suggestion or if you potentially think there's a partnership or if you think there's anything we can get involved in, then we are all ears.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. It's been great talking to you today, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Today's show was produced by Joe Donaghy of Cambridge TV and supported by our media partner Business Weekly. The Cambridge Tech Podcast is available on all major podcast platforms and on cambridgetechpodcast.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star review. It'll really help others discover the show.
Are you a startup founder considering launching or relocating your business in Cambridge? What if Cambridge, one of Europe's leading deep tech hubs, was easier to access than ever? Introducing Launch Cambridge, a powerful new initiative bringing together trusted local experts in workspace, legal, finance, banking and relocation, giving you a seamless, de-risked path into the UK's most dynamic innovation ecosystem. Visit launchcambridge.com for more information.